Yeah, it's got my name in it, and like, yeah, I didn't know what else to say. I was like, well,
Yeah. My thought on it was, okay, so you always want to have your opponent on your winning side. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that was the reason why I chose that.
Unfortunately, I don't seem to follow that advice 90% of my matches. But
Yeah, B side. It was I was thinking about A side or B side, something like that.
right.
But no, I just went with this.
Yeah.
I think we should be live. Let me double check. Okay. Winning Side Podcast, episode 2. Let's see if we can keep it under 2 hours. That'd be nice. I'd like to keep these right around an hour. That would be nice. That'd be really nice. So I will go to the chat here and keep an eye on that. It's a little closer.
gonna cover the brand up until Powerade sponsors me.
Yeah, there you go.
So they're not getting any any clout on this podcast, that's for sure. I mean, really, it is really good stuff. This is very slept on. The Powerade Zeros are very slept on.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Better than all the other hydration drinks that are just packed with sugar. And
Yeah,
what is it?
they taste pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for what it is, for a
And
zero sugar Powerade,
yeah,
um,
they're only like $1 at the Dollar General.
that's why I go with them over Gatorades, because Gatorades are absurd. I think they're super expensive for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
We got
You're
a
just
few
paying
people
for name.
ready. We already got 11 people watching. How about that? You guys go exit out of the live chat, hit the like button, share it to Facebook, try to, you know, build up this channel. That way we can get into some money and maybe use that money to sponsor some matches. That'd be sweet.
There you go.
The Drew 24, what up, dog? Colby Eaker, he's here. Adam Finley, what up, dog? Parker's here. What's up, Parker? Tim, Colby said, nice bench, Tim. He must have saw your video.
Oh yeah, the 435 for two. Yeah. It's all right. It's still not what I was doing before, but
I'll take 225 too. I
King
benched.
Kong did
Ever.
82 reps of
Time I
that.
benched, I went ahead and went in because I was afraid of messing my shoulders up. I was just like,
Yeah, honestly, man, Matt, I don't know if you know who Matt Wenning is, big power lifter. But he preaches that closer grip bench just for the more power, more explosion. You have more muscles working. And he benched over 600 pounds with not a close grip, but a closer grip than most people. And I mean, he was a 270 plus guy, so he was a super heavyweight
Wow.
power lifter. And yeah, he pressed some weight. Tim, you know who Matt Wenning is, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, not personally, but I mean, I know the name and the
Winning
sport.
strength. Yeah, big time. I don't think he competes anymore, of course, but
Yeah. Is he in his 40s then, or or
he's yeah, I mean he's still around in the sport. I think he still coaches and trains people. He has a
okay.
gym. He trained at West Side for a little while with Louis. Um, yeah, yeah, dude was a beast. I mean, just did the West Side conjugate method and got super strong, and then kind of started implementing his own training, everything that worked for him, more or
Right.
less. So
Yeah.
I saw a video of what's the guy's name?
You
Louis?
right
mean
now,
Louis Simmons, or you mean
Yeah, Louis Simmons. I
yeah.
saw a video of that gentleman. I think he was squatting or deadlifting or something, and I had no idea what the guy looked like because I was unfamiliar with him
well,
prior.
his prime would have been the 80s, you know.
Although he did,
70s,
he
80s.
still did total, I think, like 18 or 1900 pounds at like 67 years old. That's
Jeez.
which is like,
Wow.
which I mean, that's 0.001% of the population at that age doing that. And
That's ridiculous.
I mean, the dude was a beast all the way up until Louis passed away back in
Yep.
2022, I believe.
I met him at the Arnold, and I want to say it was like 2018 or 2019. Like
I never
at
got
that
to meet
point,
him.
he was just kind of like sitting in his chair in the gym, but
Yeah.
really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he was in his mid 70s when he passed away, and
Yep.
he broke his back twice, broke his knee, tore his pec, tore biceps, everything else. If you ever get the chance, I'm pretty sure it's a free movie on any streaming service that has it. It's West Side versus the World. If you ever get a chance to watch that movie, it's a solid movie. I mean, it really shows how brutal powerlifting really is. A lot of people who go to the gym, they just kind of see guys slamming weights around and see guys lifting heavy weight, and they don't really understand what they have to do and what they have to go through
That
to get that strong.
revolutionized powerlifting for sure.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
I mean, when Louis took over that West Side, or well, not took over, but when he invented that West Side conjugate method
the
and basically took
strongest
what the
guy
Soviets had, and
in the world moved to Columbus, Ohio to be able to
yeah,
train at that gym. It was that crazy back then.
the mecca of powerlifting. I mean, and
So
it's still a
that
gym. It
was
still runs,
Columbia.
but it's more or less like sports specific training now. And
A lot of it has shifted method,
yeah,
yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, we want to thank everybody for being here. Episode 2 of the Winning Side podcast. I want to thank my co-host for being here, Cody Smith.
how we doing?
And then we also have a guest tonight, Mr. Tim Lewis.
How we doing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First off, let's thank our sponsor, Grip Arm Sport. They are the sponsor of this podcast, Winning Side Podcast. We want to thank Grip Arm Sport for all their support that they do for East Ohio Arm Wrestling. If you guys can, go to griparmsport.com, buy a t-shirt, buy some straps, buy some chalk, anything that they have available. Go ahead and head over to their website, give them some love on our behalf. We thank them so much. Adam does a great job with Grip Arm Sport. So let's talk. What did I? Okay, so we have Tim, special guest tonight. Marshall Thompson wasn't able to join us tonight on the podcast. I wanted to talk about the Mega Brawl that just happened in Toledo, and that was Saturday. I think it was Buckeye Mega Brawl 2, or I can't remember, but I think it was like the 5th Toledo event in arm wrestling in like the past few years, right? So
Around there, roughly, yeah.
yeah, I heard Marshall and the DJ talking about that. How many events that has happened in the recent years, something
I
like
think it
that.
started in 21. I went to the first event up there at up in Toledo, I believe. Was it at the what's the bar called? Was it at the same bar it was at in 21 and 22,
It's
Tim?
the same bar, but they changed the name of it. But it's
Okay.
the same location. Yes, it
Okay.
used to be Jed's, and now I think they call it
That's
the
right,
Drunken
Jed.
Master.
We were talking about that. We were like,
Yep.
it starts with a J. Couldn't remember the old.
Yeah. It's Jed's. It's just a new owner and it's a new name.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What the event went really well. Tim, he ran the brackets for the event. I was one of the head refs for the event. Overall, a well ran event, and a successful event is anytime nobody gets hurt. So we are thankful.
No injuries. Yep.
Injuries. I think the worst worst thing, all the pain was my left arm. That was probably the worst part about it. Boy, did that hurt. Whoo! 1,600 milligrams of pain meds. Finally helped me out. But yeah, the event went really well. It was triple elimination. Tim, you want to kind of speak on how we ended up there?
You mean like numbers wise, like
No,
entries?
no, I'm not really concerned with that. Like, did Marshall talk to you about that triple elim? Was that like an idea that he had come up with, or
So
like?
he wanted to do the triple, partially because it's different and, not really a lot of other events around have it. But also because there was really a kind of push to like not have divisions, like just have weight classes, not like, pro, amateur, novice. Like he really didn't want to go that road.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, really, there's two main reasons for that. Um, One is simply we want depth in class. We want 6, 8, 10 people minimum in classes. Like we don't want to see a lot of classes that
Right.
only have 2 or 3 people. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and the second reason was, at a few of the other events, um, we had noticed that, maybe there had to be some conversation with some poolers about, maybe their eligibility status for amateur, etc. And it wasn't like this was 1 or 2 people. It was like, a good amount, like a good percentage, guys that have been pulling 2, 3 years.
Right.
And, rather than have those conversations, we're just like, you know what? We're just going to have open.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you have triple limb, right, then, if there are a couple people in the class that are kind of like on another level, right?
Right.
All right, like maybe some of those guys will lose, but they still have 2 more matches. So the chances that some of these maybe amateur level guys or lower level open guys are going to get some competitive matches increases when you do triple elimination as opposed to just double elimination.
Right.
So that was kind of the theory behind that, was okay, like some of these amateurs will be less discouraged to enter if they're going to have a chance to have more.
They did the same thing down in Florida for the I don't know if they still run these events, but the I think it was like Biketoberfest down there
It
in
was
Florida.
Brandon Morris's event.
Yeah, he did the same thing. He did a triple elimination, and it can be very nice. You get to pull more. I mean, at the end of the day, you get to pull more. So even if you're, going 0-3, you got to pull an extra match at least. So your entry fee went to you pulling a little bit
And a
What?
more
lot of
twice.
people say it takes a long time. They're like,
That's
oh, well,
what I was
if
just
you
getting
have
ready to talk.
14, 15 guys, but believe it or not, you're still going to save time over having all those amateur and novice divisions.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we got to leave. It was what, like 6:15 whenever we took off, maybe 6:30.
So we had a
That's
super match which started on time at 1:20 or 1:25.
yep.
And we started the event promptly about 10 minutes later. Okay. we took a 10-minute break between right and left-handed, and I was still done with everything in 4 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
2 hours for handed classes, a 10-minute break, and 2 hours for the left-handed classes. And we're packed up out of there by 6:30, 6:35. And that's with even like 15, 20 minutes of hanging around after pooling or whatever.
yep.
So it was very efficient, you know?
Yeah, I think it ran just like normal, Couple little snafus in there. I think possibly with just this guy only had 2 losses and, having to figure out third and fourth place or something like that here and there. But
Yeah, there was one class where I admit, like, I had the program was putting the seaside guys in a very weird position.
oh, okay.
And having never used the triple elimination program before, like the first class, like I missed it, and then I saw where they were putting them. So like that happened one time.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that guy still got the pool. I mean, we still gave him the matches he was entitled to. We had just like misannounced that the class was over.
I don't remember hearing anybody saying, "Hey, I didn't get to pull all my matches or anything." I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah.
So that was good. The tournament went well. There was a couple standouts. This is another thing that I wanted to talk about tonight. First off, let's thank Marshall Thompson for putting on the event. First off, and allowing us to work the event, we thank him so much. But yeah, we had a couple standout pullers and I want to say athletes, man. I tell you what, geez, a lot of people think arm wrestling is just, oh, you just move your right. The amount of stamina that came out of Gage Black at that event was insane. Insane. Gage probably weighed what, 190 pounds, something like that.
So he did not make 176, but I don't think he was all the way up at 198.
Oh no, he
I
was
think
maybe
he was
187.
probably about 185 or 190,
Yeah,
something like that. Because he had weighed in the night before with them. So, I wasn't there when he actually weighed in.
right.
But yeah, that's what he said. He was around 185 or 190.
Cody, you didn't hear about this, did you?
what is it?
About Gage.
Oh no, I heard he pulled a lot of classes and he did fairly well. So I
Yeah,
mean that's great. I mean, whenever you pull more than one class, you always run that risk of getting into one
And
match
all
and then
these
just losing
classes
everything.
had
So
5 or 6 people in them, I think, with the exception of the 220 class that only had 4. But all the others had at least 5 or 6 in there. And I believe he played top 4 in every class.
yeah, it was
He
crazy.
won the 98, I believe.
Right hand,
Got
yeah.
second to Rich in the 220s. And then I want to say took like a third or something. And there was
No,
like really big ones.
I was looking for it. It was on the Buckeye Mega Brawl arm wrestling page. Okay, so Gage pulled literally almost every single class he could possibly pull. My hat's off to this guy. Just signing up for this amount of abuse is just wild to me. My arm would be probably broken if I did this. So, like Tim said, he pulled 98s and all the way up right hand, and he threw his left arm in on a couple classes too. The crazy thing was okay, he won the 98. That's right off, a good win. The guys in that class, you had Vince Tucker, Jason Bradshaw, Dan Blanchard, Joe Teat, Jonathan Simpson, and Gage
Nobody's
won.
a pushover in there. I mean,
Yeah, that is
Those are all
not an
legit.
easy class at all. And Gage won that class. And then he pulls right hand. Now, granted, that was a smaller class. Yes, I understand. But you just got done pulling 98s with a 6-man class there. And then he comes in second place to Rich Calero on the right.
He only lost to Rich.
Yeah, exactly. And here he comes up again in the 242 right hand class with 5 in that class. Drew Doan taking first place. Gage Black getting second place with the following Colin Palmer, Joey Carapolo, uh, Carasapolo, I think is how you pronounce his name, and John Isola in the class.
Yeah.
And Gage getting second place in the 242 right hand class, weighing 190 pounds. Now, like I said, the amount of stamina is insane. We were just like sitting there like, what is happening right now? Like,
because Gage did this last year at this tournament, but it was kind of a joke. Like, he pulled his class and I think did okay, but by the time he got up to those other classes, I mean, it was, he was just kind of up there losing. You know what I mean?
right.
So to see that shift was just, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I really couldn't believe it.
Now, I want to bring this up also. This wasn't just a 242 and then 243 up. There was a 265 right hand class also. So,
And I believe there were like 8 guys in
242, 265, and 266 plus. He pulls all these. In the 265 right class, there was 8 guys in this class with the names Anthony Perez, Gage, Marshall Thompson, Drew Doan, Joey, can't pronounce his name right, Marcus Renicus, Colin Palmer, and Tracy Hare. Gage gets second place in that class too. Like, how is this happening? Like, we were just in, like, I was in shock. I was like, this guy's stamina is insane. And I'm not saying just the stamina, being able to just pull it. You have to have power to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like, high power is stamina. So he pulls off second place in all these other categories, wins 98s. And unfortunately, he did come in last place in the right hand supers. Okay. Yeah. So, dude, like,
They
he
finally
played
got
second
him.
place in 4 classes and first in another. Like, holy moly. It was an impressive feat of strength and stamina by Gage Black on Saturday. That was amazing. My hat's off to him, man. I tell you what. He did great. He did great. I think really he was ticked. He was taking his frustrations out.
He was upset about that loss in the super match in
Yeah.
West Virginia.
He was ticked about losing to Parker. He said, ugh, and he just took it out on everybody up in Toledo. There's Parker in the he said, Parker goes, Buddy must have started the juice after I beat him. Nice pulling, Gage. Gage, you got to be listening to this podcast, brother. This thing's about you. Jump in here, man. Jump on the chat at least. Take a bow. Take a bow. That was an impressive feat of strength and stamina. That was really, really good showing. A lot of people aren't able to do that. Some people, they crap.
Heck no. I have trouble even pulling one class up, even with my left arm.
Right. Like, it's not really pulling all the classes. It's his ability to get second place in 4 other classes. Like, I saw him beat Marshall. I saw him beat Drew down. And then Drew beat him again, but I saw him pin Drew down once on the right arm.
Yeah. And I mean,
crazy.
No one else did anything with him there.
No. wild. It was wild. That's all I got to say. That the just the ability of somebody to be able to do that. First off, being crazy enough to do it, and then to actually pull it off.
Right. Because
Wild.
anybody could do it just for, giggles, but to actually like look very competitive in there, it's just
Yeah,
that's something.
yeah. I want to publicly say, because of Gage's performance at that event, he pulls for free at our next big event. Gage does, and that will be East Ohio Arm Wrestling sponsor for Gage himself as a attaboy for that performance that he just did Saturday. Because I was so impressed with that, very impressed. He said, there he is. He's in the chat. He said, the power of the Red Bull.
Yeah.
He needs to get a Red Bull sponsorship now. Jeez. Gage, let me know if you want to do that, man. You're going to be sponsored. Free pulling in the classes for our next tournament if you so wish to come down for it. So yeah, that was an amazing thing to watch. But yeah, so any other thoughts on last Saturday, Tim? Oh, Anthony.
Oh, Anthony's right was something at that. Yeah.
Oh goodness, I did want to talk about that young man. He's only like what, 22, something like that, 21.
Around there, I don't know exactly, but
The young gentleman's name's Anthony Perez, Steve Perez's son from Michigan. Wow. His right arm is wild. He is wild. He did really well. I think he won the.
he was in the 265s and the super, I believe.
Yeah, let me look at that. Right hand. I'm looking on the Buckeye Brawl page here. Yeah, 265 right. Anthony Perez, first place. Whew. I don't know if he lost any matches. I haven't got to see the brackets, but man, he did really well. Really well. And having his dad right there coaching him, and I saw him look at his dad, focus on what his dad was
Oh,
saying.
he was doing it in our match too, left-handed.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't quite have a strong enough hand, but he knew what he had to do in that match. His left was not the same. I mean, his right was unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. He was, the amount of intensity that he had was impressive. That's what caught my eye right off the bat, was the amount of intensity that he had on his hits and his finishes.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I'm curious on how long he's been pulling.
I honestly have no idea.
How long has he been taking his pulling serious?
I mean, we'd have to talk to his dad to get an answer to that.
I want to say he was at the Border Wars event in 23. He had a super match with somebody from Ohio.
Was
he's
that
from
the
Michigan,
one
right?
where you pulled Jordan Graham, Cody?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say that was 23. That might have been 24. No, that was 23 for sure. I don't think
want
he
to
did
say
a
it
Border
was
Wars.
23 because I pulled Phoenix at
Yep.
that.
So even if it is only a couple years, I mean, obviously he's been pulling for longer, but taking it seriously, in our sport for only, if it is only a couple years, wow. What a beast.
Oh yeah.
What a beast.
Yeah. I want to say he was a beast a couple years ago, even when he pulled a super mat. I forget who he pulled, but I want to say he did very well.
Right.
I'm gonna have to go back on his dad's Facebook or something like that and check him out sometime. But yeah, so any other thoughts about Saturday in the Mega Brawl? Anybody? Anybody in the chat got any questions about that before we move on? Like 14 people watching. Gage is in there. Aussie Arm Wrestler popped in. What up, dog? Jake just popped in to say good day. Guys, hope all is well. Ready, bang. All right. Brian's in here. Filthy Animals Arm Wrestling. Pizza Man. Pan and Pizza Man. That's Mike from our club. Good polling, Gage. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up the podcast tonight is, all right, Tim and I talked about this, is the different regions that we have around, us, knowing what pollers are polling and stuff like that. And I tell you what, it's hard finding people to actually step up to the plate to start, quote unquote, organizing and at least hosting, or what I mean, on a consistent basis.
And Billy, like, we were talking about this more from the standpoint of like practice coordination,
Yeah.
and training, not
Yep.
so much hosting or promoting events.
Correct.
Which is a whole nother game,
Yeah.
But we I was thinking about in particular, some groups that I've seen kind of emerge a little bit. Some in Ohio, some close to Ohio, but in the region. And they kind of had a little bit going on there for maybe a month or two, but it kind of vanished because there wasn't really anybody driving that consistency.
Yeah. Before we do that, Adam Finley asked who won the 54s, and that would have been Remington Avery. I do believe he's from Michigan, right?
Yep.
Remington
Avery. It's right above Toledo, about 10 minutes north of it. Yeah, but it is Michigan. That's correct.
There you go. Adam, that's your answer. Remington Avery is his last name.
Yeah, as far as the practice groups and the teams and things of that nature, as far as all that goes, over here in Dayton, Ohio, we don't have anything. Like, I just kind of practice with who I can practice with when it's convenient. But I want to say in 2024, I practiced with Doug Allen a couple times. I practiced with Tim a couple times. Drew Arthurson a couple times, which that dude's a beast. As soon as he starts competing, it's going to be a game changer. I mean, anybody benching in the 500-pound range, once they understand how to arm wrestle, I mean, their horsepower's through the roof already.
Yeah.
As soon as they can take it and put it on the table, they're strong. I mean, they're really good.
Yep.
But yeah, we don't really have anything here in Dayton. I tried to start something up back in 2022, and it never really took off. I think we had one practice, and then nothing ever happened. And that kind of drove me to just training hard in the gym, practicing with people when I could, and competing, treating competition like live practices.
Yep.
And
shout out to Colby Eaker. He just posted in the chat, and he does this every week. He drives an hour and 40 minutes to our practice.
Yeah.
Hour and 40 every Thursday. So what I'm getting at is, Tim and I talked about this on the way home from the event the other day. And, there are a group of pullers in an area in Ohio that I've been talking to. And, something's coming up, very soon. And, you know, I think it is the start of something really, really good. I really think it's going to start, in this area and then maybe even blossom into, something bigger if somebody wants to step up to the plate, when it comes to uh, promoting and or organizing. So I do want to announce that there is an expansion of East Ohio Arm Wrestling, and the new club is the Youngstown Crew, and it will be hosted by Brian Sparrow Fisher in Austin Town weekly, Sundays at 2 p.m. So that is a awesome an announcement that I wanted to get out there to everybody. I know that it is a tough task driving, a couple hours, So the northern guys, Cleveland guys, if they want to show up to a practice in Austin Town, it's a whole lot shorter distance driving than coming all the way down to Liverpool. Obviously, Northeast Ohio, maybe a 40-minute drive from even Ashtabula, So shout out to Brian Sparrow Fisher for stepping up to the plate and hosting. He's got enough room in his basement for, I want to say, he said 5 or 6 tables, plenty of parking, so we definitely want to give Brian a hand, and we thank him so much for stepping up to the plate. So we have an East Ohio Arm Wrestling Youngstown Crew being formed. I want to say there's probably 6 or 8, already kind of in that group, that core group of those gentlemen. They already have a messenger group already formed, and I want to say this is probably gonna blossom into something really nice once they get into a rhythm. We'll say, even starting East Arm Wrestling in general, cross there was weeks on it was just him and I at the first year. You know what I mean? There would be a few people here and there, but sometimes it was just him and I. So I understand what it takes in order to start a club, at least just a practice, getting people together. But I think the main thing is consistency and availability. When there is a consistent practice this day at this place at this time, boom, it's there. It's the availability that it's there. It's going to draw people from way beyond just the intended use. So I really am hoping to see this core group of guys develop the arm wrestling community in and around the Youngstown area. So Austin Town is what, maybe 10 minutes west of Youngstown. Correct, Tim? Am I?
Yeah, that's roughly correct.
It's roughly 10 minutes west of Youngstown. So this is called the Youngstown, the big city, in that area. So, if anybody wants to go to this,
and that's also only about 30 or 35 minutes from like Akron as well. Not that I know of a whole lot of people there,
right.
But you know what I mean? It's Akron is like pretty far from East Liverpool and even Cleveland.
Yeah.
So, if there's people there that we don't know about,
I want to say
there's room for growth.
Like maybe a half hour or something like that, maybe even from Kent. Like, so all the college pullers, if they
Kent is closer to
for real.
As well. Yeah.
So the consistency value is so valuable, just knowing that there will be a practice to go to in the area, on a scheduled day every week, that is such a great thing. Such a great thing. We got a couple of the guys in the chat. Mike Pan Am Pizza Man. It's Mike Wachowski. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. But he's part of that core group of guys. Adam Finley, shout out Adam. He was ready to step up to the plate. Also, he said he's ready for practice. Mike's definitely ready to go. Mike said, great point, Tim. Didn't even think of Akron. So, I already do a lot as far as the marketing for East Ohio Arm Wrestling. So I might not get involved in it, but if anybody knows groups or anything like in the Akron area, any of those northern, cities, I already told the guys that I would, create them their flyers or anything that they want for that. So if anybody wants any of that artwork, just let me know, and then anybody can share all that to whatever, Akron buy, sell, and trade or whatever. You know what I mean? Just I don't know any of those groups and all that stuff. So obviously social media is so prevalent in our community right now. So if anybody wants any of that information, the date and time and all that, and I can put it all on the waiver, or not the waiver, but the flyer and all that. Then anybody can share it and all that too. But their first practice is this Sunday, 2 p.m. in Austintown. You can message me personally if you want the address. The core group of guys are going to decide this Sunday who they are going to nominate to hand out the address. It is at somebody's personal residence, so the address is not going to be publicly given out all over social media. So you will be two guys will probably be tagged in each post for their practices and stuff like that. So if anybody wants the address to the practice, they will have to message a few certain people in order to get that specific address. So it's just like our practice, you know what I mean? Message for the address. If you want to come, we'll get you the address. If we don't feel like you're serious about coming to practice, we're not going to give you the address. So we want to know for sure if you're going to show up to practice. If you know for sure you're going to show up to practice, then we'll give you the address. If you're just looking for information or whatever, we can at least get you the name of the store. You can time it out, but we don't want to have a whole bunch of people just knowing the address for no reason. Christina Casto, what up? She's in the chat. Hi, y'all. Filthy Animals Arm Wrestling Club, also every Sunday at 1 p.m. in Toledo. Also, there is tons of practices available in Ohio weekly, which is awesome, which is really awesome. So I think I'm going to attempt to get up to this first practice. I'm going to at least go to a few of them and, try to gear the guys in a good way to start practicing and stuff like that. Brian knows a lot. He's been with our club for a while, so he's going to pretty much be okay as far as the host and everything. So he knows what to do. But yeah, so we got the Youngstown crew for East Ohio Arm Wrestling starting up, and you'll start seeing, everybody will start seeing the artwork being shared on social media. So we're looking good. Christina also said Marietta, Ohio, Saturday. Muddy River Boys. Christina, tell us in the chat if that is every Saturday or do you guys have specific Sundays? If it's every week, man, I tell you what, that is so valuable. Then people know that they can, hey, if I have a Saturday off, I know that, I can go here to get some pulling in, which is really nice. So we have East Liverpool Thursdays at 7 p.m. Now we will have Austintown Sundays at 2 p.m. We got Toledo Sunday 1 p.m. Christina says Marietta, Ohio, most Saturdays, 5 p.m.
And then obviously, Cleveland is Saturdays at, I believe, noon.
And that's at Berea.
And Columbus is, I want to say, 5 o'clock on Saturdays
Yep,
in
Saturday.
Grove City.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. Like, you message them if you want the address and all that.
Yep.
So
a lot of good things coming up. East Ohio Arm Wrestling has some events that will be announced here soon. So everybody keep tuned for that. We'll have some announcements coming out, and we'll be looking for some possible super matches and possible sponsorship opportunities. So if anybody knows any businesses that want to, get some marketing out for their company within the arm wrestling community, I'm more than happy to help out with that. So if anybody got a business like Cody that wants to sponsor,
I do not have a full-time business.
I'm just joking.
I would if I
Yeah,
could.
I'm just with you.
If these guys would sponsor us, all of our problems would be solved.
Oh yeah.
Everybody would be super hydrated. Weight cuts wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah,
they're delicious.
That's the thing. Like finding like you did gyms that are willing to sponsor athletes. That is so nice.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, and I mean, I'm hearing like, another instance of that, recently, like, they were like, hey, like, if you have practices at our gym, they were going to like sponsor, so.
Oh, nice.
This really is, more common than people think. I mean, there's definitely places that are willing to, support arm wrestling.
Yeah, especially if you can throw a tournament at their establishment, if they have enough space.
This place in mind, like, has talked about that preliminary, but like there's nothing official yet.
Right.
I
Tracy,
think the only thing that scares most gyms is that potential risk of injury and
the liability.
But we talked about this before. Somebody can drop 400 pounds right on their neck and kill themselves. Like,
yeah,
the
risk factor from breaking your arm versus snapping your neck is not even close.
So I did like talk one time to a gym owner about that, and their response was essentially, well, see, as a gym, we have insurance. So, when people go in a gym, any gym, right, you sign a waiver, yada, yada, yada. But that waiver, believe it or not, it only covers them like
equipment failure kind of thing.
For their equipment. So what that's telling me is if like the arm wrestling table itself was actually purchased by the gym and they have an invoice, and that arm wrestling table is no different than any of their other benches or squat racks, or it's fine. But if like you bring your table in there and it belongs to you and the gym didn't pay for it and it's not gym equipment, their insurance policy ain't going to do dick for them.
Yeah.
Now you might say, well, all the gym has to do is buy arm wrestling tables, but a lot of them don't want to because, what, are 5 of their 300 members going to use it?
Yeah, I think our gym has like 944, I think was the number, 944 for members, and I'm the only arm wrestler that goes to that gym. So
exactly. So most gyms, it's a financial loss for them to do that. Like they're like, they got to buy a table, they got to add that one to their insurance policy. like just one or two members can arm wrestle. You
Yeah,
know?
and see, like I've, and I've been told that I can hold like a practice there, and I can, do everything along those lines. The problem that gets to, that gets to be is those people still have to pay a day pass to get into the gym. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody's just walking through those doors without signing any waiver at all and paying that day pass. I mean, it's just
Right.
how things work.
Right.
And I can't expect, people to pay $5 to come to a practice, or I think it's like $15 now for a day pass or something.
Right. Right.
And I'm not going to pay for everybody who wants to practice, and I'm also
Right.
not going to expect them to pay. So it's almost easier just to hold a practice at like a personal residence.
Right.
Or, I mean, really, you can set an arm wrestling table up at a park
Yes.
on public
But
property.
in the winter, when you don't have good
Exactly.
weather, a lot of that's the problem. Because, like,
Yeah.
you share a space with other people. Like, you know what I mean? Not everybody has their own house. So it
Right.
becomes issues when you're like, and like we even have issues with this at some of the art league when we don't have any work to, you know, if there's not an outside option.
Yeah, I want to say some, especially for wintertime, a big part of hosting a practice is parking. If you
Yeah.
have parking, I tell you what, because I don't want my yard all trashed up via, the wintertime ruts and stuff like that. That's going to suck in the springtime and summer trying to cut that.
Right.
Understand, the shortage of parking sometimes, and to be honest, the Youngstown crew is going to be nice because it's all paved parking.
Right.
And there's plenty of parking. You're never going to probably ever run out of parking at the Youngstown Crew's practice facility. So which is really nice. So, but
Sure.
yeah, you have to be able to utilize space available and have enough parking and somebody willing to host, on a consistent basis.
Man,
Obviously,
I had
you're
a practice back in
guaranteed
2022.
practice every Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it is. I mean, somebody's going to get sick sometime, but I mean, for somebody to just step up and say, "Hey, I'll host practices this day every week." Boom! Thank you so much. Hats off to those guys.
Right.
Back in 2022, I hosted a pretty decently sized practice. Well, I thought it was going to be. Had a bunch of people, kind of RSVP, like, hey, I'm going to make it. So I bought like 15 boxes of pizza for everybody. Bought,
I remember
2 coolers full of water, and
Yeah.
then I think like 7 or 8 people ended up showing up, maybe 10.
Yep.
So there's like 10 boxes of pizza that didn't get touched. And I was like, yeah, that's the last time I do that. I mean, I would love to, I have a pretty nice smoker, and I would love to like throw a brisket on the night before or something and have some people out on occasions. That is not a weekly thing. Briskets are $100. But that would be pretty cool. But down here in Dayton, the Dayton area, kind of like I was saying, when I first got into arm wrestling in 2021, the Brother in Arms team was kind of a thing, and they were, holding some practices. Greg Arnold, Bill Arnold, I think they were running that. And then that just kind of died down once Bill stopped competing and Greg kind of slowed down on competing. And then everybody kind of just branched off. So you have some people that, I think they go to like Columbus and they practice. And, there was people that used to come from Cleveland. I know Palco was there. That was like my first big
But
practice I went
Cody,
to.
like, if you had to estimate right now, Dayton and Cincinnati, like that whole area, and like the surrounding little towns in between, whatever they are, like, Huber Heights and Middletown, and whatever, all of that.
Yeah.
How many active poolers would you say there are in that area that are at least doing, say, 2 events?
Probably 4. 4 or 5, maybe.
Only
You know.
4 or 5 arm wrestlers. That's it.
Yeah. I'm thinking. I mean, if you start talking like Hillsboro, which is kind of closer to Chillicothe, um, then you start getting like there's a lot of pullers in that Chillicothe area. But I want to say like, I compete.
You compete twice a year, so you count. You know, Greg probably did count. Like, I don't know if I'd still count.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
He'll be
I
back.
mean, Cameron Smith, maybe you could count. But like, I don't think they practice. I don't. I don't.
Gerald Dees competes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Niles competes.
there's plenty of guys down there. You just gotta find somebody that is willing to
I
host.
guess what I'm trying
Well,
to say is,
the
if you
problem
fought
is
hard
I've
enough,
thrown that idea. I've thrown that idea out there several times, and I just don't get any bites ever.
yeah.
So
But guys don't even seem to be willing to even drive. Like for me,
half hour.
Dayton to Cincinnati, that's a hop, skip, and a jump. That's not far. But these guys don't seem to want to leave their little suburb.
No,
You know?
and I used to well last summer before I went to Arizona State, I would travel to Eaton Barbell a few times, which is about 40 minutes from the house to practice with Drew at that
Yeah.
gym. And now Eaton's moved. So I mean I've practiced with Drew and I've gotten pretty good work in, and Drew's always down to practice when I ask him to practice, but there's a lot of people that just don't want to practice around the area. I mean they
Oh,
either they don't want to or they're traveling someplace else to practice.
right.
How close
So
are you to Josh Koenig's?
he's a couple hours from
Is
me.
he a couple hours? Where does he live?
Yeah, he was like an hour 40. I forget where he lived at.
I thought it was Cincinnati, but am I wrong?
I believe it was like an hour 30 or hour 40 from me to Josh Koenig's, and I went and practiced with him. He does practice. He's active.
Okay.
There's just not a ton of people that really are practicing around the area. Kind of, the reason why we don't have any, organized practices around here. And like I said, I've tried, and I've gotten Tim to come to a couple practices in this area, and he's 4 hours away, and you must have to beg people who are a half hour away to travel and practice. So I just kind of gave up on it and started, if I want to practice with somebody, I just kind of get a hold of them and we go practice, and that's it.
It's tough.
It is. It's rough, but
I want to say ours is as I'm not saying that it's all like this, but ours, you find out that a lot of guys use it to have some social time
Yes.
away from the family.
And Billy,
A lot
like
of
this
guys,
is another point that I want to make. So, how much do you think the marketing aspect matters?
oh, it
Like,
does.
for example,
Yeah.
your logo and like your posts and like even what Kevin does. He's like, oh, Cleveland arm wrestling practice. And then like he'll post the time. And like, sure, I know when that is. But like, maybe there's guys that just don't know or don't pay attention. Like, maybe there's people that like have tried to do something in Dayton or whatever, but you can't go online. You don't see that post. Like, people are not going to look that hard anymore. We're in a society where something almost has to like
Just
forward.
got smack
yeah,
them.
it's got to fall into your lap for people to see it. Yeah.
That's the reason why I use Facebook is just because it is personally I I think more people have it, so that's where I use it. That's
Yeah.
where our marketing. Christina Casto, she said Josh is in Lebanon, Ohio. So however far that is from you. But I wanted to get back to the point is, in our general area, East Ohio arm wrestling, a lot of our pullers are family men, you know what I mean? They got families. And personally, I use practice as a social time where I can get together with my brothers that also enjoy arm wrestling. I love talking, to also my fellow brothers in Christ that I'm able to, talk to at practice and stuff. And we have some good conversation, like these practices aren't just for just getting some banging in, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is
Yeah, absolutely.
to better the man himself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The encouragement that these athletes are getting from these close knit groups are so valuable, you know, and it does something up here. You know, it's not just in the arm and then, you know, your strength, you know. We get a lot of strength via, you know, the encouragement that we get from the other pullers, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of what I use the gym as. I mean, I go to the
Yeah,
gym throughout the
exactly.
week, and it's the same thing.
You got your gym that push you in the gym.
Yeah,
Same thing.
yeah. Yeah, but it's always nice, no matter how bad of a day you're having, how bad of a week you're having, you walk into the gym and that same dude in there is like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?" And you just you forget about everything else. You're there to lift, you're there to have a good time, talk to people, and you don't care what time it is. You don't care, what happened today at work, what happened, 2 days ago at work, whatever the case may be. All that stuff is, kind of just behind you. And I think even if I were to, have some traumatic injury to where I could never compete ever again, I would still go to the gym to do something, just for that same, social,
Yeah.
kind of effect you get from it. And there's sometimes where you go to the gym and you don't want that social hour. You want to go in there, get things done. You've got a lot on your mind. You're trying to get out of there. But most
Right.
of the time, more often than not, you're in there to, not only get your workout done, but also to, kind of be around the group of people that you like to be around. And everybody's in there trying hard. Everybody's working their tail off, and it's just a good environment. And that's what you get with, and I kind of want to shed some light on hybrid strength and fitness because this gym came out in, well, I think Dave started it 2014, somewhere around
And it
there.
used to be up in Troy. I
Yep.
remember the old
Used to be about 15 minutes away from where the new one is, and it was a small gym. Everything was clustered in there, but it was all like, West Side conjugate inspired powerlifting on the backside. You had some strongman stuff, and then you had all the bodybuilding stuff throughout. And I mean, if you wanted to train in there, it was clustered, and the floors were uneven. But I started training there when I was like 16 years old, and he took that gym from, I don't want to say nothing because it was a great gym even then, but he took that gym from where it was in 2016, and a little less than a decade later, he's got, I think it's like 27,000 square foot,
right. Like
metal
something
building
like
now,
they
and
did in Power Build in Philadelphia. It was very
yeah,
similar. They
and
started in a very small little garage in Conshohocken, kind of like that. And then now he's got two big 20,000 foot facilities and selling merch, coaching, I mean,
and you don't
it's
get that just
big.
from equipment and gym memberships.
Right.
You get that from forming good relationships
Yeah.
with your, fellow
You can
gym.
buy
And
$1 million of equipment. It doesn't matter if you're not creating that sense of culture and
well,
community.
I mean, look at Planet Fitness, man. They kind of fall into that same, that same trap there. The Planet Fitnesses, the LA Fitnesses, Everybody Fitness, Anytime Fitness. You don't go in there and have a social hour with anybody. You don't go in there and talk to people. Everybody's just in there doing their own thing. They don't care.
No,
It's kind of a mind your own business kind of gym, and you walk into a gym like Hybrid, man. It could be your first day there. Nobody knows who you are, and people are just talking to you. Hey, hi, how are you? What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do for work? And then, what are you in here for? Do you just want to stay in shape? Are you competing for something? And that just stems and opens doors to so many other conversations, and you build good relationships, and that's what Dave really did when he first started the gym. And he did a great job doing that. And that's, like I said, we've got close to 1,000 members at the gym now, and he's just absolutely killing it. And I think, like I said, I wanted to shed some light on that because I think it's really important, because it kind of goes hand in hand. If you want to run good arm wrestling practices and you want to have, that same kind of relationship with poolers, kind of what you do, Billy. I think what Kevin does,
Yeah.
you're not just showing up to get in a hook with somebody or go outside, beat your arm up a little bit, go home.
Right.
You're really there. When somebody walks through the door, it's not, are you ready to arm wrestle? It's, hi, how are you doing? You
Yeah.
know, how's your day going? Whatever. We're all here to arm wrestle, but that's, that's a given. We're,
Hmm.
we're gonna talk. We're gonna have a good time. Everybody's gonna get to know how everybody's week was, whatever. and we're gonna help each other through that. If somebody's feeling down, we're gonna try to change that, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the environment that we need in arm wrestling as a whole. Really, because I see a lot of, if you go down the rabbit hole on Facebook, you see nothing but back and forth between arm wrestlers, and I don't think that's necessary with how small the sport is and how rapidly
The
it's
thing
growing.
is, like, for every drama situation you see like that, there's 99 good relationships. It's just the baggage always gets blasted.
That's what gets thrown up there. Absolutely.
Unfollow. Unfollow.
Yeah.
Follow.
And it's a shame because what happens is you don't get thousands of views for something good. You get thousands of views for something bad. That's what
Well,
goes
it's the
viral.
same reason why you turn
So
on the news and they, put
yeah,
bad news on there for 90%, and then, at the very little end of the local news, they'll show like some happy story with a dog. But you know what I mean? It's what's on there most of the
yeah,
time, controversy. Because unfortunately, that's what sells in our society. It's a shame, but that's
it
what
is.
sells.
It does, and it's
You
the
imagine if we
problem.
had ring girls at our events? Oh my goodness. Everybody'd show up, but that's not what we're about.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, if arm wrestling just had like all these hot chicks
I
everywhere.
want to say that Blaze talked about that with the BAL.
I think
I
he
want
did
to
have,
say he mentioned that.
I do believe he did have it at the last one at the Hard Rock, didn't he?
Did he? I don't
He
remember.
had ring girls, I think, at the one.
That
I
that's
mean, it's
I
not a
remember he had it, and then I was just like, I knew it was getting recorded, and obviously I'm not trying to look anyway, but I
But
was
I
like,
mean,
oh,
he
all
did
right, straightforward.
pay. No, he did pay ring girls to come to those.
that's not a horrible idea. I
No,
mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw a crowd in, and dude, there's people that watch boxing matches that don't know what's going on. They're there for the ring girls, and if
oh,
you're out to get
it's
exposure,
even
you got to
harder to
use the
understand.
cards you're dealt.
There's people right now watching this Super Bowl and, buying NFL apparel that would never watch football because of this Taylor Swift thing.
Yeah, that's been
Everybody
going
is
on
like,
for a little
oh,
while.
is he going to propose to her in New Orleans? Like, but no, like there's literally people that are going to watch this
Yeah,
simply for that reason. It generates revenue.
Well, he's kind of
Like,
having I think guys like in the NFL, guys like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and the whole Taylor Swift thing, whatever. They're kind of doing what like what Conor McGregor did, a decade ago in MMA and in the UFC. You bring and you draw a bunch of new fans into sports by just having, just something's different. It's not just a football season every year. It's not just
right.
a select number of games in a Super Bowl and it's over with. Something different happened and it drew fans that never watched football before into it. Kind of the same with how Conor McGregor's, run went a while back. And at the end of the day, it really is for the good because if you want the NFL to be the NFL, people got to watch it. So
right.
it's whether people like the idea of it or not, it's better for the sport. So,
If
you
it's
can't really hate
generating
on it.
more money into that, then they're going to be able to do bigger and
Absolutely.
better things.
Absolutely. And, just like Dana White, back in, when he first took over the UFC, he wasn't handing out free UFC tickets. And then Conor McGregor does what he does. And then, short time after, Dana White's given 15 fans, front row tickets for free.
So
He wasn't,
he was a failure in the beginning. Is that correct?
I don't know all
They
the
almost sold it.
logistics on it, but I do believe that he
But the
had a rough
financials were
time there.
not, or they were not great after the
No,
first year or two.
no.
Okay.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the logistics there, but I don't believe that he was, doing crazy numbers, of course, and making, very much profit back then.
When would
I
you
think he,
say things like really struck Like
I
on
want to say like
Conor McGregor specifically, or do
no,
you
I
think
want to say like when you have like the Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, um, Anderson Silva. I want to say that era and that generation of fighters, which would have
so?
been
What
like
like
early 2000s, like
2000, early
05,
2000? Okay,
07,
yeah.
somewhere around there is when people really started, like, oh, what's this? And it took fighters like Chuck Liddell, who was just a crazy brawler, and it took guys like that. And then John Jones kind of came on the scene shortly after, and he's still on the scene, which is crazy. But
Now, would you say that they tried to compete with or deter people from traditional boxing? Or
no,
would you argue that they kind of create a different product?
no, I want to say the Brazilians having Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you know, Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, karate, judo, wrestling. I want to say all these different sports, all having their own following. And then somebody had the bright idea of, okay, let's put two people in a cage, have a simple set of rules, and see who the better fighter is. Because at the end of the day, I was never a fighter. I was a boxer, completely different. Um,
Sure.
if you were a wrestler, you were never a fighter. If you were a, kickboxer, you were never a fighter. A fighter is, the complete package there.
So it
So they,
took elements from all of those things, is what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, and I think at first they got a lot of hate at first. People thought it was just like putting two monkeys in a cage there and just letting them. People thought it was a circus act. They didn't think it was that cool. And then when it took off, man, I mean, it went crazy. And I mean, you see the numbers that these UFC fights do now, and the amount of people that
Yeah.
are following it. And I mean, in a short span of 20 years, you had people that had no idea what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Now, do you
was to
think
now there's
UFC is
5-year-olds
still
in it.
peaking, or do you think it's declined a little bit from its peak?
No, I don't think it's ever going to decline. I think the sport evolves every like 5 to 7 years. So guys like Conor McGregor, as good as he was back in 13, 2014, 2015, he's of course not going to be able to do much now. That
But
comes
do
with
you think
age,
it's
but
still
also
stable? Like the financial stability of it, like it's
It's
not
stable, but it's not.
oh,
It's not
max.
at a massive high right now. I guarantee you that.
okay.
No, whenever you have John Jones on a card, that sells numbers. Whenever you have Conor McGregor on a card, that sells numbers. And then
Kind of
there's
like on a
select
smaller
fighters.
scale, but if you look at arm wrestling, it's the same thing. Look at sales with Devin versus without Devin on a card.
Exactly.
It's the same
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, and I would almost compare like how Travis Bagent was back in the early 2000s to like Chuck Liddell and those fighters back then, and then I would kind of make the argument
Because
of
he made a
Devin
show
being
out of it.
yeah, and then Devin kind of being the Conor McGregor who really changed the sport. John Brzenk being the GOAT, of course,
But
but Devin
John was
Larratt
very
changed the sport.
humble. He never really put himself out there in this manner. Now, in his defense, there wasn't social media and all that back in his prime.
I don't think Travis did it for exposure. I think Travis did it because he was just a very, competitive and hungry athlete. And and that was his way
He always did
being
like
competitive.
attention, though. Travis loved attention, always.
Yeah. Yeah, and that comes with being, a great arm wrestler too. I feel like you're gonna like people watching you. When there's something to watch, of course. If you're always getting beat, that's a
Sure.
different story. But yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
let's talk real quick. I'm going to change the subject if you guys don't mind, but there
good.
was something that Matt Speakman brought up earlier in the chat. Let me get to that real quick. He brought up somebody needs to create a gym dedicated to arm wrestlers with equipment that is designed for arm wrestling workouts. Did you guys see Pavlo's new gym over in Chicago?
No, I did not. Has
Yeah,
he
go on to
posted
Pavlo's.
anything
Pavlo
about this? Like,
yeah, go on.
like show a tour or online or?
He just posted a video of of his
All right.
building or his gym, it is a arm wrestling gym.
And
Wow.
this is on his personal, like just type in Pablo and then
Yeah, on his
I can't
Facebook.
spell
Yeah.
his last name, but is it
Yep.
just his name?
There's some other equipment in there, but it's an arm wrestling gym, and that's where they
Now,
hold practices and
is
everything.
this something that's just like private where he trains with a few people? Or is this actually a business? Like he's
Yeah,
selling memberships and
those
stuff?
details as far as whether or not it's
Or
private,
you don't know? I'm sorry.
public, whatever. But I know Pablo has a space specifically for arm wrestling in the public domain. It's not at his house or something, you know.
Kind of like Brian Shaw had for his own strongman gym. I mean, whether other people got to train there or not, it was, sport
Now,
specific,
this stuff
tailored to
does
him.
exist in other countries in Europe,
Oh yeah,
primarily Eastern
yeah.
Europe.
Yeah,
The
that's where
question
strength is
is this
respected.
something that could, thrive here? Like actually make sense from a return on investment standpoint,
The
Well,
the arm wrestling itself would have to be mainstream at that point. It would have to be able to be in schools, i.e., and it would have to be to where you're putting on an event, every couple months, and they're being huge.
because I couldn't imagine, what it would cost to build a gym like that. How much you'd have to invest, and just
arm
to keep
wrestling
the
equipment's
doors
not cheap.
open, rent and everything. So it's like, I can't. I don't think we're anywhere close to that yet in the United States.
No.
No, I mean, overseas strength is really a respected thing. People look at all the strong guys and they look at them like they're Superman. I mean, that's over here not as big of a deal. If you're strong, that's pretty cool. Over there, if you're strong, that means everything. I want to say if you've ever seen, I know you guys have probably seen. I think it's Pulling John, where they talk about
Right.
I forget if it was the Spartan days or when it was, but they used to arm wrestle for who was going to be leading them into battle, and that was like their test for that. And I mean, and just that in itself being way back when, just shows you how much respect they have for just being a strong dude. And over here, like I said, you go into a gym and see somebody squat 800 pounds, and there might be 5 or 6 people watching, and
And
nobody
people will
cares.
think it's impressive or whatever, but it's like those people, no one really cares in normal life about that stuff.
No.
Like
It's not going to be on the news. It's not going to, it's nobody's going to bat an eye. Unfortunately, I think it's something that should be respected. If you understood what people, go through to put that amount of strength, build that amount of strength, then it's a different story. I mean, I don't ever look at somebody who's, putting up any numbers in the gym that are above like beginner numbers and think like, okay, that's not that good. Whether some dude is bench pressing 185 pounds or not, like he didn't start off at that. So whatever he had to do to get there, that journey, it's got to be respected. And um, but yeah, I, I don't think that we're getting anywhere close to even with how big arm wrestling has gotten recently. I don't think we're anywhere close to people
Yeah,
actually
I mean, like maybe we were in the upper hundreds and now we're maybe in the thousands, but it's like we'd have to be in the hundreds of thousands
Correct.
or anything like that could take off,
Yeah.
Yep. I think one other thing too is if you get kids involved and you get those parents that love to cheer on their kids, I tell you what, the hype around that would be nuts. You get an awesome video of a couple kids just going at it for like freaking a minute and a half on the arm wrestling table. It goes viral. You saw what happened whenever Rob Vigent's daughter beat that boy in that tournament. That arm wrestling match went viral. There's like millions of views on that.
Yeah.
One went viral in Greece where Camille had that girl pull guide and like, and I mean, whatever, he was gassed or but whatever, like he made this music and more people watched that than, like top level match,
Yeah,
like
it's
it guys.
have
There
no
were
idea
more
what they're looking
people
at.
watching that little
They
silly
have no idea
nonsense. Yes.
of the sport, and all they see is the arms just sit going here, and they all they know is center table, win, lose. That's it. That's all the masses
They're
understand.
not watching, oh, he is, in a dominant position. Like if somebody is close to getting pinned, they assume that, oh, well, the other person must have control. And it could be obviously the
Right.
complete opposite,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't know if that if the spectator aspect, the spectating aspect for arm wrestling is ever really going to change drastically or not in this country.
It just depends on who you have on the microphone.
Yeah, the commentators make a big deal for sure because they have to be able to explain what's happening. Same with the with MMA.
You have the commentator. Shout out Alex.
Just with how many big massive sports we have. I mean, during the fall and winter, we have the NFL, starting in the winter into the spring, we have
You watch
basketball, we have
football without
baseball.
commentary?
What is it?
Can you imagine watching a football game on TV without commentary? Not gonna happen.
I could because I played and I understand it, but that's a
but
completely different
most
story. I'm not going to be as angry.
people would not watch without
No,
that.
no, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, we would have to, break into that, like, into that. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. We would almost need a season almost to dedicate to arm wrestling for it to be,
Yeah,
unless
off season, right?
Yeah.
what
Because
is it?
right now, Cody,
Off
there's
season.
really no off season. It's like,
No,
well, you pick the events you want to go to and look cool, but there isn't like an established schedule.
I would say spring and summer is I mean, that's always when I would go the
It's just
hardest in arm
because
wrestling.
there's more events, though, because
Yeah,
the weather's nicer. Like, it's not really like this event is like, who's to say that winning Michigan State, for example, is any more prestigious or any better than winning Arizona State? Like, they're both very wonderful, good high level tournaments. But like, you can't really make that argument. Or like maybe some guys want to go win nationals, maybe some guys want to win the Arnold, maybe somebody wants to
yeah,
train for a super match at East versus West. Like, who's to say one thing is better than another? Like, you really can't.
yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, as far as the state, as tournaments go, um, I mean, it really doesn't matter. You win the tournament, you lose the tournament, whatever. It's really the quality of matches you had
It's
within that
who
tournament.
you beat and the respect. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
you can win a state title, but if I look at second and third place, and I'm like, okay, well, who are they again? Like,
yeah,
I'm not batting an eye, and I know you're not. But
yeah,
I
it
mean, if
changes
you took
things.
second place or whatever it was at Arizona State behind Larson and like beat all those legit dudes, it's like, but somebody is like, oh, well, I'm a state champion and you're not. It's like, well, okay. But
Yeah, and had had I not pulled Jack Severa, Steven Martinez, Delacaterra, in that, nationals class last year and won nationals, I wouldn't have
right,
been as happy about it. I'd
right.
be the world
But the
champion
thing is,
and,
Cody, is you
nationally
can
ranked
never
pullers.
control who shows up.
You can't, and that's a
And
problem. And
okay, you got lucky, but I know I've been to a couple events and have put into that, and a lot of people. And what if you show up and it's just maybe it's a wonderful tournament and there's 500 entries, but your weight class is just not there.
Yeah, kind of watered down, and I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say watered down either. I'm just saying,
It is what it is.
when you have that large gap between skill level, it's just kind of how it works. And that's the to me that's the love hate relationship I have with tournaments. I love tournaments because I love showing up and pulling for everybody's after the same goal here, and sometimes they can be bangers, and sometimes they can be kind of busts. But
Right.
at the end of the day, you do never know. And my only problem with super matches is you train so hard just to pull you know 3 matches at a minimum, or 5 matches at the most, with the
Right.
same guy. So it's a weird thing. I like showing up, pulling a super match, pulling the tournament with the other arm. That's fun to me. Uh,
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, I did like the idea of the round robins, but I think that they should have been narrowed down to like 10 pullers or 8 pullers of that
I mean,
caliber.
I think they had 12 originally. It was 12, but
Then
yeah,
it needs to be even less, like 6 to 8 of that caliber. Because when
because
you have,
there's a high level risk of injury when you
yeah,
start
man. I
having that
mean,
many matches. Yeah.
like think about what your max bench press, your max squat, your max deadlift is, whatever, and then think about just doing that over and over again the same day, whether you can do it or not, whether something hurts or not.
Right.
You're up against that weight, and I'm not saying that all these guys are the same strength level by any means, but that's what makes it even more scary and difficult is you've got all these people that are
Because
all
unfortunately, we did see some
versatile and
injuries. We did see some injuries in those things, you know.
yeah, man. I mean, who was it?
Well,
Very
Bob
good puller.
Brown got hurt real bad in one of them. Um,
Very
I
good
know.
puller from California. Um,
Oh,
220, 198, 220 guy from California.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, that one escapes me right now. But
Left and right. But he tore his right bicep at the Arizona State round robin. Um, it's things like this are going to happen when high level matches are happening, and you always have that risk. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. Like you go pull a super
but what
match, you go
you're
pull a tournament,
saying is
but
if it was 6 or 8, I feel like the probability of that significantly would go down. You know.
yeah, I believe so. I think it'd be a little safer, but injuries happen. It
Yeah.
is what it is. I think a lot of that has to do with people not cutting weight properly,
Yeah.
or cutting too much weight. At the end of the day, man, there's nothing you can do if
We
you cut too
saw
much
that at
weight.
Worlds, like I think Sean even had kind of admitted himself that the weight cut there was probably a factor in that when
Yeah,
he threw his bicep.
All right, so that's pretty much all I got for today's episode of the Winning Side podcast. Um, we're already at an hour and a half. Nice. So, does anybody have any other points that you want to bring up before we end the show?
I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was a good one.
we have nationals coming up in Dayton, beginning week of April. We got Randall's event the end of April. Ohio State Championships.
The
I'll have
Arnold,
thing
the end of
coming
this
up.
month.
Yeah, I'll have something coming up once I firm some dates up, and once something is announced, then we'll start, doing some of our stuff. But we got a lot of great events coming up in Ohio. So we just hope. Sorry, get it. My arm. So hopefully you guys are all training. Everybody's good to go. Uh, hopefully everybody is well. But yeah, if you guys don't have anything else, we'll call it. I like the hour and a half mark. That was it's a whole lot
Pretty
nicer
good.
than 3 hours.
A little better than three
That was
hours.
rough. That was a rough one. Not that I didn't have fun, but it was whoo, that's a long podcast.
It was. Didn't feel like it, until we got to about
No.
2 hours and 45 minutes. It was like I looked over and saw the time on the stove, and
Yep.
wow, that's been 3 hours
Uh,
almost.
Colby Eaker said John Brzenk versus Brian Shaw. He likes that match. That's
Yeah,
a tough one, man. You never want to see the goat losing, but Brian is my goodness.
I know it's gonna happen, but I hate to see guys come in to the sport, getting matches that they don't deserve. In my opinion, I don't think he deserves to pull John Brzenk, but people want to see it. So,
I'd like to just see Brian start pulling some tournaments. Just
oh
trap.
yeah, he needs to go. And I think that's with everybody, man. If we have some celebrity come join the sport, we're not just gonna give him special privilege and like, hey, here you go pull the best we've ever seen. Like,
Right.
But you
maybe,
also have to remember too, it's about sales.
and that's the
Having
shitty
them
part
in a
about it.
tournament
But
is not going to generate any revenue for these promotions. But if you put Brian Shaw on a pay-per-view, people are going to buy it.
yeah, but show a training montage and a montage of him pulling tournaments and getting first place and showing his rise in the sport, and then put that over him pulling John Brzenk. I think it does
But you
better.
got to understand, people watch Brian Shaw's YouTube videos because of Brian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's because of him and his dedication to his craft and his strength. I watch his videos because I like watching Brian, not because of what he does. I
Yeah,
watch
I've always enjoyed
before
that.
I got into arm wrestling because I value Brian as an athlete and his dedication to his craft. You know what I mean? To his
Yeah.
how serious he takes it. You know what I mean? A
Oh
lot of
yeah, I mean that world's
that amount
strongest
of work.
man, that's not a walk in the park.
Yeah,
That's you're risking your life doing that, and you know,
yeah.
I've
You
always found the strongest man competition super
found out
entertaining.
he was blended. He was bleeding out of every orifice.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And even if you know nothing about lifting weight, that's the great thing with strongman is it just, dummies it down for you. Hey, he's picking up a car. You think a car's pretty heavy? You don't even have to know how much it weighs. A car's
Yep.
heavy. So, as far as strongman goes, you don't really ever wonder how much weight's on the bar or how much, anybody's doing unless it's like a traditional deadlift or an elephant bar deadlift. You're really just watching them do, crazy feats of strength.
Yep.
And it's entertaining.
Yep.
I think the History Channel did something with Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, Robert Oberst, and I forget who else it was, but they were just kind of traveling around the world, doing feats of strength, and um,
I watched
it's
that.
great,
Yeah,
great
good
to watch.
show. Yeah.
I loved it, and then they got rid of it, and yeah, there goes that. But
Right before COVID too.
was it right before COVID?
I believe it happened right before COVID. But
I think I watched it during COVID, so that would make sense. I
yeah.
watched it in 2020, end of 2020, something like that.
All right. Well, that's pretty much going to do it. If anybody in the chat, if you guys have any ideas for any ideas that would benefit and improve arm wrestling events, whether it be tournaments or super match cards or both. If you have any ideas, good. Put it in the comments of the video. Don't put it in the top chat or in the chat because we're going to be closing off the video here pretty soon. But comment in the video. If you guys have any ideas that you want to see, anything like that. I'm always looking for ways to improve the events. You just try to get a little bit better each time, improve in an area and try to make it more entertaining and or better running, smoother, faster. That's always the goal is to always be improving. So, but yeah, if you guys don't have anything, that's gonna be it. Appreciate everybody being here. Thanks, Cody, for co-hosting with me. Tim, thanks for being our guest tonight. We appreciate
Thank you.
As always, thanks for everybody being here. Thanks for watching. And, God bless you.
We'll see y'all later.